Chapter 14. Part 2. One of the defining characteristics of the wilderness is the utter scarcity. When the children of Israel left Egypt for the wilderness, they left civilization for a barren desert. They left homes, the protection and security of city living, and the promise of food and water. God did this to break their self-reliance and communal dependence, so His people would learn to rely on Him for all their needs, not on themselves or their government leaders, and I mean all of their needs. And my God shall supply all your needs according to His riches and glory. Philippians 4:19. Let's go over some of these basic needs. God provides food. And they journeyed from Elim, and all the congregation of the children of Israel came to the wilderness of Sin, which is between Elim and Sinai, on the 15th day of the second month after they departed from the land of Egypt. Then the whole congregation of the children of Israel complained against Moses and Aaron in the wilderness. And the children of Israel said to them, "Oh, that we had died by the hand of the Lord in the land of Egypt, when we sat by the pots of meat and when we ate bread to full, for you have brought us out into this wilderness to kill this whole assembly with hunger." A purging was in full effect. Their faith was being tested and matured, even if they didn't know it. Up to this point, they had relied only on their Egyptian slave masters for sustenance, and had seen the Egyptians feed them. But God was still a mystery to them in this area. So when things got bad, they complained and demonstrated their faith rested in what they understood, the security of slavery. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Behold, I will rain bread from heaven for you, and the people shall go out and gather a certain quota every day, that I may test them, whether they will walk in my law or not." Exodus 16:1-4. We just saw reference to testing in the wilderness. Here is another. "And you shall remember that the Lord your God led you all the way these 40 years in the wilderness to humble you and test you. So He humbled you, allowed you to hunger, and fed you with manna which you did not know, nor did your fathers know, that He might make you know that man shall not live by bread alone, but man lives by every word that proceeds from the mouth of the Lord." Deuteronomy 8:2-3. In this passage, God admitted to allowing His people to feel hunger to teach them He was their source, and that there were more important foods than earthly foods. But He still fed them afterward. For 40 years in the wilderness, He fed them. For 40 years Israel had to depend wholly on God for food and watched Him come through for them over and over again, often through supernatural, unexpected means. When Elijah was sent through the wilderness to rebuild his dependence and trust in God, to cure his sudden bout of unbelief, God sent angels and birds to feed him. 1 Kings 17:6 and 19:5-7. They began with the basics of trust, sustenance. For myself, when it comes to food in prison, the institution does not provide enough. I believe the daily allotment is about 2,000 to 2,200 calories or around there. But for an active young male like me, with a 6'3" height and broad build, I probably needed twice that. But if inmates want more food, they must purchase it themselves through the inmate commissary. Well, unless you have a doting family willing to send money every week or month, or unless you have a well-paying prison job, which is equally rare, you are out of luck. There is no other legal avenue to obtain extra food in prison. Since I'm a Christ follower now, the legal avenue is the only path I can pursue. No more stealing, no more scheming, no more anything criminal. For years I had to rely on the Lord to fill the gaps in my diet, but He came through in a major way, and often. For the first few years, God used the inmates around me to help in the most unexpected ways. Today, God uses a Christian brother who used to be in prison with me, we did prison ministry together, who now puts a helpful sum on my inmate account so I can purchase the things I need. Recently, my parents started doing the same. God answered my prayers about provision. The only time I'm hungry now is when I willingly fast. He will do the same for you. Water. So, Moses brought Israel from the Red Sea, then they went out into the wilderness of Shur, and they went 3 days in the wilderness, and found no water. Now when they came to Marah, they could not drink the waters of Marah, for they were bitter. And the people complained against Moses, saying, "What shall we drink?" So he cried out to the Lord, and the Lord showed him a tree. When he cast it into the waters were made sweet. Exodus 15:22-25. Later, God had a giant boulder follow the million-plus Israelites on their journey, and out of the center of the rock flowed a massive river of water to supply them. Living in the United States, water is a non-issue. There is plenty everywhere, even in the desert where I live, and most of it is free. Nevertheless, many nations around the world aren't as fortunate, and drinking dirty, contaminated water is the norm. I also know many Christians are living in these impoverished communities, and through the help of charities and nonprofits, God builds them wells. Yes, God is doing this work, and He is using people to accomplish it. Digging wells for impoverished people is their purpose.